What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 281 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex von Cannell. Not as much of a lively intro this week because it has obviously been one of the heaviest weeks in Australian history, essentially, this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty obvious what we're going to be discussing this week, the events in Bondi from last weekend, but also the response since. But to start off the show, we'll roll it over to you, Alex. How has your week been so far?
Who cares? I think the one thing that we should say is Jason and I purposely didn't really talk about this for this week. We wanted to collect our thoughts individually.
Yep.
Basically, today's the first time we're talking about this.
Yep.
We wanted to see if our views on it aligned or not. We had sent some of, obviously the footage and stuff to each other, and so it's not like we're completely coming completely dry, siloed,
Yep.
but we've actively avoided each other so that we could have this talk. I wanted to start with feelings over facts first.
Before you say that too, one thing I just want to add to what you just said is, we said on the show before, and we'll reiterate it, we don't believe in going first. We're not interested in being first to market with and that's why I didn't post a reel or anything this week on Instagram or on X, just trying to get views and those sorts of things, because I don't believe that going first is helpful unless it is something that, it's an active shooter situation, you're trying to warn people or something like that. We wanted to give it the time for the information to roll in, and I believe that we have enough information now to be able to make full comment on it. But anyway, sorry, back to you, Alex.
So I just wanted to start with, where were you when you found out? And what was your very first feeling to what you were seeing?
So, I was at home last weekend when I first heard about it, and I'm just going to make one brief point to start off with. This is a really good example of the actual value of mainstream media, because I switched on, I was obviously looking for citizen journalism on X, but I was also switching on to mainstream media to watch some of the news coming in live. Because at the end of the day, they've got much more resources than what your standard citizen journalist has. And the coverage of this was very, very good. So we grill the mainstream media all the time about rhetoric and agendas and those sorts of things. But there is actually a point to having a proper, unbiased mainstream media ecosystem.
I will argue that point later on, but I think it's because they got what they wanted. But anyway, let's continue.
Quite potentially, yeah. So yeah, I was at home. I originally saw posts about it on X, so I turned the TV on and I was watching both sort of back and forth, and watching as things developed. And obviously, it's one of those things which we talk a lot about on the show, about how far left this country is going and has gone thus far. And one of the reasons why it has gone so far left, it is so easy to have, I think what maybe even you've referred to before as luxury views of the world or luxury values.
Yeah.
When you are in an extremely safe country like Australia. It is easy.
Something's tapping on your end. There's something hitting your mic. It's sending these vibrations through.
Oh, okay. Honestly, it might be me because maybe has that stopped
larger
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, these luxury views that we've seen permeate through Australia over particularly the last 5 years have been things like our tacit support for one side or the other in various global conflicts. This is not just about Israel-Palestine, but you look at when Russia-Ukraine kicked off, and all of a sudden there are people who, from a very safe society in Australia on the other side of the world, were happy to pick sides immediately.
Yeah, we'll come to that. So just tell me the feelings from when you initially saw the footage. What did you feel at the time?
I was extremely angry.
Yeah.
I was extremely angry. Obviously, at the people who did it.
Yeah.
But I was even angrier at the government who has created the conditions that have allowed this to happen in the first
Yep.
place.
So we'll come to that. So I got a notification on X saying active shooting in Bondi. I clicked on it. I think I was watching a video that was like 5 minutes or 10 minutes old, and I was watching the shooting happening live and then swiping through and seeing all the other ones. At first, I thought, this isn't Australia.
Yeah.
I was looking at the cars. Okay, like this is clearly, because like X footage is only as good as the camera that was used. The camera is obviously not that advanced of a one, so it had that little bit of a haze to it that you sort of get from like more third world countries. And I thought, oh no, someone's just called it this, and it's probably from Gaza or something. Yeah. And then I looked at honed in on the cars and saw the yellow number plates and saw the beach, and I was like, oh no, this is real. Like, this is here. I was very angry. I was jarred by I don't want to, but essentially the swagger that the shooters had as they were walking around doing what they were doing. I almost felt like they were a little, almost like drone-like in their movements at the early stages. Obviously, it's a very intense moment for them too. So I guess we're lucky enough that we don't see those things. I was angry like you about the government because we'll come to it. I also had a very strong feeling later on as the night went on that trying to be nice is not working. Yeah. And I think I felt like it was time for action. I wanted to know if my mood simmered over time, over the week. I literally I spoke to some people this morning about it, just at the gym, and someone said something interesting, which was like, no, I don't think you should do anything. Like, these things will happen, and it doesn't matter who was in power. And aspects of that I agree with, and we can come to that as well. But I do think that, and what we will explain here, there are many factors that have helped lead to this moment. Yeah. So, I wrote a list. So do you want me to start?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll riff off it?
Yep.
This is not in any particular order, okay? So I've got notes that I've written here. So what led to this? Literally ramming immigration into this country for the last 5 years. So a lot of this energy that I'm directing is not directly aimed at the Labor government, okay? Some of it is, but some of it started before, okay? Some of it started even earlier than that, okay? So I might predicate whether I think this is a specific Labor issue or if this is a government issue at large, okay? So ramming immigration is primarily a Labor issue, but also Liberals were doing a level of it too. Yep. And when I say immigration, we get to choose where we bring people in from. Correct. We get to choose that. And for many aspects, the fact that we've got two lots of people that hate each other, they've essentially brought their war here. Yeah. Okay? So we have to think about that. Calling out anyone that called out immigration was deemed a bigot. Yeah. So there was a real...
do you mean in the week since this has happened or prior to?
No, for years.
For years, correct.
Okay. For years, and we've covered this extensively on the show. That's why I guess I came to this realization very early, because we have done the work. So people I have spoken to haven't really had these thoughts before. But examples such as having a pro-Palestine march every week for 2 years, having anti-Semitic attacks not so frequently, but having laws changed to suit that relatively small demographic, and then having Australia marches completely denigrated by governments and media. Correct. So just so everyone is clear, the majority of the media, the majority of the government was pro-Palestine marches.
Yeah.
Everyone in the government, majority of the media, pro-anti-Semitism reaction.
Yeah.
Everyone in the government, everyone in media, anti-Australia marches.
Correct.
So whatever your belief system is across those things, there was a clear narrative to divide those three sectors.
I also don't think it was just to divide. The reality is, like you said, this is a government problem, but it's not a Labor government problem. This is a Labor Liberal duopoly problem. And this didn't happen overnight. This didn't happen just during Labor's governance. It started prior to that. And it is clear as day that both of the Liberal and Labor parties want more and more people to be coming into the country. Now, we can discuss what those reasons are. But the reality is there has been tacit support from both major parties to bring more immigration to the country. All right, continue.
But we brought them from particular places that have beef with each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Recognizing Palestine as a state. Now, let me just say this off the rip. I'm not equivocating the war in Palestine in Gaza with Israel to these guys. I'm not. Because, for a start, they're from Pakistan. The son was born here. So this is not... But what it is, it's building an environment, building a narrative that helps embolden extremists to act. Okay?
Can I make the point too, sorry, just before you go further? When you mentioned earlier about how the government brought in new anti-Semitism, like hate speech laws and stuff like that, the thing that people didn't really focus on enough at the time was the fact that even though they brought those laws in using anti-Semitism as the justification, they weren't all specifically about anti-Semitism. They quite often were talking about Islamophobia at the same time.
Sure.
So whilst they used the Jewish people, protection of the Jews as justification to bring in these new hate speech laws, it also protected radical Islam under the same banner. And any other sort of...
But anyone questioning it was a bigot, a racist, a neo-Nazi, a fascist.
Yeah.
All the names under the sun. So that entire narrative was divisive.
Yeah, and designed
whatever your side is, whatever your view is, zoom out for a moment and look at the narrative at large that was put on all the people here in Australia.
Yeah.
That was divisive.
Yeah, and if you mention at all that you don't want more people coming into the country at the moment, regardless of where they come from, you were called a racist. They've done everything they can to destroy any sort of national identity or patriotism in the country.
The flag. They don't want the flag.
They banned the Australian flag from Parliament for a start.
Yep.
And I believe it is because if you destroy national identity and you make it politically incorrect to speak out against this immigration, well, they get to bring their agenda in. Yep. And their agenda is quite clearly to bring as many people into the country as you can. And we've spoken about it a million times way prior to this. The people who benefit from mass immigration are the politicians, because we know full well that the Labor Party has been courting, say, the Indian community for votes for years. They've been pandering to the Muslim community for years as well. I mentioned, I think I spoke to you about it during the week, and I was going to post this online, but I can't remember if I did or not. Tony Burke, the immigration minister, his electorate identifies as 25% Muslim.
Okay.
So the immigration minister is never going to come out and speak against the Muslim community when 25% of his voters are Muslim.
There's a video that I'm going to show a clip for it, but not that clip.
Yep.
But I'll send. So this only came out an hour ago. It's Friday at 1:30.
Yep.
Okay. It was Tony Burke. It was the police minister and the prime minister. 45-minute speech, and I joked to Jason and said, "Let's see how long it takes for him to mention the word Islam."
Yep.
And then let's see how long it takes him to say something like white nationalism. Well, I've got the notes here. The notes are, it took him 5 minutes and 49 seconds No, sorry, 5 minutes and 4 seconds to bring up sovereign citizens.
Wow.
It took 21 minutes, 24 seconds to say the word Islam. It then, in another 3 minutes, he linked Islamic extremism to sovereign citizens and neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a clear agenda at play here.
To his credit, he did prior to that talk about ISIS ideology. So from a political standpoint, it's quite smart. So he's blaming, he's reclassified Islamic extremism, essentially, to ISIS ideology. Okay, so it's very smart on his part, but I noticed it. So, going back to my notes. Again, in no order. So recognising Palestine, when we did, 2 days before Donald Trump had done a peace deal in that area, and like we said last week on the show, you can't tell me that diplomats weren't talking, saying, hey, our intention is to recognise them as a state, and the Americans say, hey, just wait a couple of days, we've got something cooking, just wait a couple of days and we don't have to do it. No matter how you feel about that scenario, we backed, as a country, at the highest levels of our government, support from primarily Muslim country over a Jewish country.
But it's worse than that too, because you have to realise the fact that to be recognised as a statehood, you have to have a functioning government. The government of Palestine is Hamas. Hamas is a designated terrorist organisation. Yeah. So by recognising Palestine as a state, our government is literally recognising that Palestine's government is a real government, even though they are a designated terrorist organisation.
Yeah.
So again, like what Alex is painting here, and I know you've got more points that you're going to add to it. If you were a radical Islamist in Australia, you would be looking at the moves that the Australian government was making as tacit support of your ideology.
Yeah. And not everyone, but at the extreme levels, the people pushing on the extreme ends are looking for any pieces of information that support their stance.
So when you are allowed to protest every single weekend without any sort of pushback from the government, you would see that as support. When you're allowed to fly the Palestinian flag on the top of Parliament House, you will see that as support.
When you can fly an ISIS flag at a protest and go away like unscathed.
Yep.
When you can yell gas the Jews at the Sydney Opera House.
Yep.
Like all of those things are pushing this acceptability of extremism.
Correct. And particularly targeting the Jewish community as well.
Right.
And Alex and I have said ad nauseum on the show that there is a lot of stuff that's happened in this country which has been giving essentially special treatment to the Jewish community, like an awful lot of special treatment for such a small percentage of the population. Yep. But we can also acknowledge the fact that in this particular ideology, this radical Islam, they are targeting that particular community as well. Yeah. And they deserve to be safe too.
And the government is targeting normal people like you and I.
Correct.
So as all that was happening, there's no protections for normal Australians.
Correct.
Okay? The next thing I wrote, and there's a two-parter to this, and this is going to be unpopular. Police training. So I've watched a lot of the footage. There's a photo that's going around that looks really bad of two female police with their hands up. They don't have their hands up. So in their defense, they do not have their hands up in I'm surrendering. It wasn't that. It was them trying to get known to direct traffic. Yeah. Okay, direct the people away. There was a lady behind the car. So when the hero, everyone knows the story, so I'm not going to explain it. So if I'm where the camera was having the best vantage point, there was a car parked in front. There was a police officer, female police officer behind that car. She was trying to make sure that the guys over to the left, the hero that saved, that disarmed the guy, was getting out of it. That's what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
All right. The other police officer was trying to get people away from the scene. Okay, so she saved lives. What you need to do in a gunfight, though, is return fire.
Correct.
Right. So the fact that their weapons aren't drawn, to me, is a problem.
Yeah.
In a firefight, okay. I've done a little bit of. I was in cadets. We did some training.
Mm-hmm.
Shot guns, and they say things like never draw your gun unless you intend on using it.
Yep.
Now there is no purpose greater to have weapons than when weapons are being used on people.
Correct.
And because we now live in this safe society where we've removed all the guns from the public, the onus is now more so on the police to use theirs.
Yeah.
So there was a plainclothes policeman that actually was he in one of the pieces of footage when they're looking at the bridge, he runs in from right to left behind a tree, uses his pistol, and he puts fire onto the bridge, and I think he hit the sun. Okay, right. Hard shot, 40-meter shot. Pistols aren't really for that range.
Yeah.
Did a great job. Okay. Once you put fire on that bridge, the guy can't be shooting back.
That's right.
Right. As soon then he will duck, and he was doing it. You could see when there was fire on him. So there should have been fucking barrages of bullets hitting that.
Yeah.
Hitting that bridge. All right. Also, the fact that there is a police station quite close. I believe it's 4 minutes away. I mean, Bondi Beach is at like the center of the fucking world, it's one of the nicest places in Sydney.
Yeah.
I think it was like 10 minutes until they arrived.
Right. Which
is probably also not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to jump ahead, but this kind of proves the point. We've had some subsequent arrests today from Special Task Force that have acted before these events have even happened.
Yeah.
Why weren't we doing this before?
That's right.
Okay.
Begs the question.
Here is a direct moment in time that should be addressed, which is Albanese removing the ASIO, and what's the foreign one?
It's ASIO and ASIS.
ASIS.
Yeah.
From national cabinet meetings. So that happened. They
March
were no
2024.
So they are no longer.
Yeah. So there's national security cabinet meetings, and up until March 2024, the head of ASIO and the head of ASIS, so internal and international security intelligence heads, were present at those meetings, every meeting as a matter of course. In March 2024, the Albanese government made the decision to remove them from the meetings and only have them attend when invited. So if there was particular reason for them to be there, the Albanese government would request their presence. If not, they weren't to arrive. Now,
governments love meetings.
Yeah, but now the problem about that scenario is there has never been a public reason given for them to be removed. You would think if you're talking about national security, you would want the two most important national security heads of in the room at the time. Yeah. And the question has to be asked is why? Why were they removed in the first place?
Yep.
You can make assumptions. My assumption would be that they were giving the government pushback on certain things that the government was trying to do as a national security measure, and the government didn't like hearing it anymore, so they left them out of the room.
Which is my next point. Something we've spoken about here. It appears that the authorities were looking in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And the direction they're looking at was white nationalism.
Yeah.
How many times have they talked about neo-Nazis? How many times have they talked about the rise of
right-wing extremism, domestic terrorism?
It's all they've spoken about. So for me, it's a massive blinder. We've been looking out here for all this bad stuff to happen. Okay. Meanwhile, these guys went to the Philippines for training.
The Sun was on ASIO's terrorism watch list due to links to ISIS in 2019.
That's what people said this morning. They're like, how do you get off that list?
Yeah, well, apparently he was investigated and deemed not a threat. So here's the thing, right? This is a massive, catastrophic failure of government and the intelligence agencies. Yeah. That's plain and simple. This is not a political statement.
That's your job.
That's your job.
As a libertarian, and I believe the government should play the smallest role ever.
Yeah.
The one job you do have is to keep your citizenry safe.
That's right. Yep. So he was on... Let me give you a little bit of time frame of some of the information that I gathered this week. In 2015, the father was given a gun license, back in 2015. It was revoked in 2016 because he was supposed to go in and give a photograph to have part of the ID. He never did that. So they revoked the gun license. The son then got put on a designated terrorist watch list in 2019. The father applied for his gun license again in 2020, and for some reason it either wasn't actioned or it wasn't approved until 2023. So it's a 3-year gap. But you remember, his son is on a terrorist watch list, and they approved the gun license for the father after the fact. Mm-hmm. Then, as we said, in March 2024, the Albanese government removed the most senior intelligence officials from those national security cabinet meetings. Then, in November this year, the father and the son flew to the Philippines to an area which is known as a hotbed of ISIS activity and essentially an ISIS training ground. They were there for a month. They returned at the start of December. Now, here's something else that happened in the meantime too. And I made the joke about this a few weeks ago on Instagram and on the show. The immigration minister, Tony Burke, refused a visa for Candace Owens because she didn't pass the character test. Mm-hmm. And you can say as much as you like that the son was born here, so technically he's a citizen. Great. The father wasn't. He was on a visa. Okay? So, in November, they went to the Philippines to an ISIS training facility, and you can see especially by the son reloading his gun, he's had training. He knew what he was doing, right? This isn't some weekend hobbyist. He had real training with how smoothly he was reloading that gun in the most intense, adrenaline-filled part of his life. The other story that people probably aren't talking about enough is that it was the beginning of... No, sorry, it was September was first, but then it reared its head again in the start of December. But it was in September that Tony Burke had secret meetings to repatriate the ISIS brides. So the ISIS brides, for people who don't know, are women who took themselves and their children to Syria to join and fight with ISIS. And Tony Burke held secret meetings to bring them back into the country. And that's why I mentioned before, Tony Burke's electorate is 25% Muslim.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, as much as we are trying to bash both sides of politics, because Labor and Liberal have both contributed to this occurring in the first place, it seems very clear to me that certain politicians, particularly in the Labor government, have put their political careers and vote gathering well and truly above the needs of the average Australian citizen, and totally now our safety. Totally. Like I said, they denied Candace Owens a visa on character grounds.
There was another guy, some German guy that was essentially a neo-Nazi, and he's been talking about how proud he was that he revoked his visa.
Yeah, he got deported. Right?
He showed off about it just today in this meeting today.
Yep. Never.
But he had the opportunity to have done this, and he hasn't.
Never committed a violent crime. You had Katie Hopkins, the celebrity from the UK, who was flown out here during COVID to do Big Brother when Australian citizens weren't allowed back into the country. This is under the Liberals, right? She got flown out over here. She had the shits with hotel quarantine, so she posted a few videos online talking about how A, the government never should have brought her in the first place if they're denying entry to their own citizens, and B, how ridiculous it was that she had to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks just to do this stupid show. So they deported her on character grounds.
Yeah.
And yet, we've allowed this father and son to go to the Philippines, to come back, and now they've carried out this atrocity.
Well, I want to come back.
I just want to say, this is a catastrophic failure by our security heads And at the very minimum, Tony Burke, at the
Yep.
very minimum, people are dead now. Like, we're a little bit desensitized to this now because we see so much global news, especially because of social media. We see mass killings in America all the time. Everyone talks about the gun violence and everything like that. So we're a bit desensitized to it. But you need to remember, this is the most significant mass casualty event that has happened in Australia since Port Arthur.
96, yeah.
Port Arthur literally changed the course of history in this country because it was such a big deal.
Yep.
This needs to change the course of history in this country too.
But not the same way.
But
we'll
not
come to
the
that.
same way.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
Okay, so I wrote focus on white nationalism, fake anti-Semitic stories. So we covered the what do you call it? I love the way you call it. The fake
the Jewish exploding van hoax.
Yeah. Which everyone knew was bullshit,
Yep.
and they still passed laws which look like rules for a particular segment of the population and not for others. The rules changed for anyone but us, you and I.
Yep.
Overly backing Palestine. Now, this is the big one. How many times have you heard diversity is our strength?
Yep, ad nauseum, especially by New South Wales Premier Chris Minns.
Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it?
It's not. Yeah,
It's the opposite.
Here's
that
reality.
has shown me.
First massacre in 30 years. The country is the most diverse it's ever been today.
Yeah.
It ain't a strength.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've covered this on the show before. Let me give you the perfect example. Poland. Poland is being fined 1 million euros per day by the European Union. And why? Because they are refusing to allow refugees and immigrants into the country. €1 million a day. So this isn't just an Australia problem. This is a globalist agenda, right? Destabilize countries with mass immigration from shitty parts of the world who are going to destabilize those countries, right? The EU is fining them €1 million per day. And the Polish Prime Minister has come out multiple times and said, we are happy to pay it. It is a small price to pay to keep our citizens safe. I saw some statistics recently on rapes in European countries. In Poland, they get roughly 1.3 women per 100,000 get raped every year in Poland. In other parts of the EU, which have had the masses of immigration, you're talking 18, 20, 30, 40 women per 100,000 are being raped. It is literally, Poland is making the decision, we're going to push back against the EU to protect our own people. And they have a safe country because of it. You've seen stuff all around the world, and we've just done it in New South Wales as well, where, hey, it's Christmas time, guys. It's Christmas time. It's a beautiful time of year. So we have to put our diversity bollards up in front of all of the Christmas parades. What's a diversity bollard, you might ask? It's giant blocks of concrete or steel to prevent people in cars driving into the crowds who are trying to celebrate Christmas.
Dude, even on Christmas, the last time I saw a massive Christmas setup in a city was Bangkok, Thailand.
Yeah.
And they don't believe in Christmas.
Yeah.
Right? Australia hasn't had we haven't shown any national pride.
Yep.
You know, I've talked about it on the show a bunch of times. I was lucky enough, I was in France during Bastille Day. I've been in Switzerland during their Swiss National Day. And you see nothing but a sea of their own flags and people being patriotic.
Yep.
We have removed that here because now this is I want you to talk about this. You can't tell me that our government and media class has not tried to engineer a culture.
Of course.
And what my statement is, okay, it's not a government's job to decide what our culture is.
Correct.
The culture is of the people.
Mm-hmm.
The people decide what they want. Each individual within the country will decide what the overarching culture is going to be of the country.
Yeah.
Now, why do I say that as so important? The remedy, and we'll come to the remedy parts, I just want to float this now, but I want you to talk about engineering culture. The remedy has been all centered around speech and hate speech.
Correct.
Let me tell you something about speech. I don't think there should be any law against hate speech.
Agreed.
You can hate anyone, anything you want. You should be able to talk about anything you want.
Yep.
But America has got a great system where, as long as you're not directly inciting violence,
yep.
So if you say, I'm going to do damage to blah, blah, blah,
mm-hmm.
that's a prosecutable offence. Okay? And I think that that's fair.
Or if you say globalise the intifada.
Now, the reason why I say that you can't... Hate speech can never, ever be fairly prosecuted because hate is subjective. It's not objective.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, someone might hate something and another person might love that thing. There's no objective truth within that. Therefore, and also the interpretation of being hated is a malleable entity too. Therefore, there's no way to effectively manage the interpretation of hate.
Correct. Yeah.
Hate is very similar to the war on terror.
Mm-hmm.
We had a war on terror where they convinced the whole Western world that we should spend $8 trillion to fight an ideology that, just so you know, they won.
Yeah.
Okay? We gave that country back.
Correct.
To the people that we went to war with. The Taliban have Afghanistan,
yep.
right?
But the good news is that the US has frozen their financial assets, so their people are still starving. So that's good to know.
Talk about the engineering of culture, or at least I mean, am I missing the mark here?
No. You're completely right. I want to talk a little bit about the event and some cultural engineering, and then we can work back from there because I want to show you a contrast difference. So, in the immediate aftermath of the Bondi attacks, the biggest criticism that most people gave Albanese was, and there was literally a news article about it, that said, in the days afterwards, he did, between interviews, radio shows, and just commentary on the matter, he said 5,022 words as per the official transcripts, and not once did he mention the words Islam, Muslim, or Islamic extremism in the immediate aftermath of the event. Twice he mentioned far-right groups. Okay? Now, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that if you really analyze it, Islamic extremism, you would clarify, you would put that in the basket of far-right extremism. That's probably about as far-right as it gets. Islamic extremism. If you actually identify the things they believe in, you would assume that that would be a far-right view. But what I also want to draw your attention to is the fact that every single one of those pro-Palestine marches was not attended by any far-right people. It was attended by far-left people in this country.
Good point. Yeah.
It was attended by members of the Greens. And
I also don't think that so technically you are right in the interpretation of far-right, but even in the subsequent context of far-right, that's not what the government's saying.
And it also shows you that people don't have a clue what they're talking about when it comes to these things, right? Like in Australia, if you're a Christian who believes in, who is pro-life, you are seen as a far-right extremist by members of the left in this community when you disagree with abortion due to your religious beliefs. Well, Islam's the same. But again, no one is calling Palestinians or Islamic extremists far right in this country because the majority of their support comes from the far left. It just shows how broken we are as a country when it comes to being able to really analyse and critically think about these issues. But so getting back to the point, in the immediate aftermath of Bondi, the Albanese government was at pains to avoid alienating the Muslim community. And it was clear as day. And it was like on day 2, they were literally being quizzed by the media about Islamic terrorism. And like the Richard Marles interview, I don't know if you've got that at all. That was the most egregious example of it. I'll see if I can find it when you start talking.
Actually, did you? Maybe you sent. No, hold on. Did you send?
If you go through, I'm pretty sure it's in the group chat, in the heavyweights group chat. If you want to go in there and find it, I think Chris sent it through.
I won't be able to pull it up.
Okay, I'll find it when you start talking. But here's the contrast I want to give you. So directly after Bondi, Albanese at pains to not mention the Muslim community. Think about the Desi Freeman incident. When Des Freeman murdered 2 police officers on his own land, got to remember, the police attended his property. We still don't know what happened that sparked off the firefight. We don't know. All we know is that 10 police officers attended Des Freeman's property, a firefight broke out, 2 police were dead and a 3rd one was wounded. Immediately after that event, all the government and the media spoke about was the rising threat of sovereign citizens. We covered that on the show many times in the weeks after that. All they spoke about, sovereign citizens are a threat to us all. You know, the far-right extremists, sovereign citizens. So they labelled a group...
Cookers.
Yep, and that's all they wanted to talk about. So when Desi Freeman happens, and I have to reiterate, it was on his own property. He didn't go out to a police station to kill people. This happened on his own property. So when that happens, they blame a group of people. They blame the sovereign citizens. But when 2 Islamic extremists deliberately target and murder Jews at a Hanukkah festival and kill 15 innocent people, including a 10-year-old girl, our government deliberately avoids talking about the group. And why? Because there's probably 1,000 sovereign citizens in Australia, and it looks like I've just lost Alex. Can you still hear me, Alex? I'm going to have to pause this and come back. All right, we're back. Obviously, the AFP isn't happy with what we're talking about at the moment. So, what I was ranting about. So, when Desi Freeman happens... Yeah, I know my mic's noisy. Go away. So when Desi Freeman happens, our government is at pains to blame it on a group. The group was sovereign citizens. And why were they happy to blame sovereign citizens as opposed to blaming Islamic extremists? Because there are way more Muslims in this country than there are sovereign citizens. Yeah. This government is happy to attack the Australian citizen, but they're not happy to attack immigrants. And I think I've figured out why. It's called the 2-party preferred system.
Yeah.
The Australian Liberal Labor duopoly understands something that most Australians don't. They don't have to work in our best interests anymore because they know, because of the dominance of the 2-party preferred system, your vote is going to end up with one of them. Either Labor or the Liberals are going to get your vote. But the votes that are up for grabs are the new arrivals.
Do you know, it's funny you say that because I was listening to Josh Zepps today.
Oh, yeah.
And I disagree on his stance on COVID. I think he's completely wrong about COVID.
Yep.
I think he was completely wrong about the energy policy that he was talking with Tony Abbott about. And there was a friend that got me onto him. He's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Even he said, because he's a J, so because he's a J, he was actually very correct. He was 95% right in the podcast I listened to today. But he said a couple of things that were really interesting, which is you can't say Muslim because of the votes.
Yep.
And that pro-gun strengthening gun laws is extremely popular in this country. So what Jason has said is bang on. The vote is worth more than doing the right thing.
Yeah, and can I make a point on that too? Because, so we saw a concerted effort by the media in the early days after Bondi to move the focus away from Islamic extremism and move it towards the guns. And so a whole bunch of stories have come out talking about how many guns there are in Australia. And I found this fascinating because it actually proves their argument is bullshit. So there was an article I saw about the fact that, did you know, Alex, Victoria has more than 1 million legally owned firearms?
I did know this because I've done the... I've actually just... there are more guns now than there was pre-1996.
Yep.
However, the gun ownership by per capita is lower.
Yeah. Yep. Because
So less people have guns,
Yep.
but more people have more guns.
Yeah, the amount of guns people own is significantly higher.
Yeah.
But here's the point. There are way more guns in Australia than people ever thought about or ever even knew. And we have a minuscule amount of gun-related crime.
Yeah.
So the guns aren't the problem, are they, Alex?
The guns aren't the problem.
It's the people holding the guns. And a lot of people have quite aptly been making the point. If the guns weren't available, they'll get knives. If you ban the machetes, they'll drive a car into a group of people. Like, the people, the radical Islamists, and look, there is radicalized people in all parts of the world and all spectrums and whatever.
Sure.
But unfortunately, there seems to be a theme that radical Islam tends to result in a lot of these sorts of attacks. And probably more often than most other creeds, religions, etc. And the issue is too, and this is where it gets into, I think, people's ignorance of the certain subjects. And look, I'm sure a lot of people will claim that I'm ignorant for even saying that statement. Actually, you know what? Here's a really good segue. Can you bring up, I just sent you through a video that Joel Jamal posted. So Joel Jamal is a conservative, what would he be called? Like an influencer, I guess, in Australia. He's the one who began Turning Point Australia. Anyway, a few months ago, there was a panel that he was on with such left-wing luminaries as Abby Chatfield, Hannah Ferguson, etc. And I just want to play this clip because this is a really good example of the guy who was trying to do the right thing by the country versus the overly emotional, irrational, suicidal empathy that we've been talking about. So let's play this clip.
The real challenge we face is we say we need more immigration because we need the trades to build these houses. That's simply not what's coming in. Only 0.5% of the immigration that's coming in are actually useful trades to the construction industry. And I think that Liberal and Labor, to an extent, these big corporations, they want the cheap labour to come into the country for various other industries as well. 200,000 students coming in February, for example, it's far too much. The problem with when you bring in too many people from overseas with a different culture.
How do you know that they're a different culture? We just talked about the fact that
the highest growing immigration group is actually Indians, and we are seeing, in terms of voting data, the highest invalid vote rate, people screwing up their ballots, is in these high areas.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Because if you're not integrating, if you don't understand what's going on...
That is not a measure of integration. Migration is not the issue. Migration rates are not the issue.
I'll put it to a vote then.
The reason you can say that, and the reason that you can just throw it to public debate, is because the sentiment from the leaders in this country of the major parties is that they're dog whistling to the far right and to the racism that exists in this country. And I actually feel really sad hearing that you're saying you're an immigrant and people have to integrate in exactly the way that you believe. I think that's unfortunate. I wish in this country we were more accepting of a more multicultural society.
Yeah, he was right. And this is, okay, this is something else.
Well, hold on. I had this conversation with a girl this morning.
Right.
And I asked her, I said, because she's sweet. She wants to be nice. She wants to be accepting. She wants to be loving. She wants to be all of those things. Mm-hmm. And I said, how do you deal with, like in yourself, you wanting to be accepting to another culture that wouldn't accept you and the rights and privileges that you have as a woman?
Correct. And
she said to me, it's a really hard question and I don't know how to answer it. And I will pin her down. I'll get an answer from her. But
what? Just like you're from a particular culture, you're going to pin her down, are you?
I will pin her down, and she goes, I don't like any of those things that that particular culture does to women. Now, then I said, by sheer numbers, just the volume, the more of that culture you bring here, the more our culture will resemble their culture.
Correct.
So, purely logically, you can be happy to look after the downtrodden, but you also have to realize the reason why they're coming here is because of everything we have built here.
Yeah.
Okay? And what happened is an ancient beef that was taken out on our soil.
Correct.
Okay? So, if we don't curb inflation, if we don't...
Immigration, not inflation.
Sorry,
we have to curb inflation too, but that's another conversation.
If we don't mitigate, if we don't manage correctly the pool of people that we have here, in terms of culture, one culture that will become a monoculture, and it won't be the one that we like.
Yeah, this is just the perfect example of, like I said before, it's a few things. It's suicidal empathy. It is having these luxury beliefs from a safe country where you haven't had to deal with any sort of trauma. Like, white girls in this country who subscribe to that sort of thing, they're all the ones telling us that they've got all these mental health issues as well. Oh, I'm anxious. Oh, I'm depressed. I need to take SSRIs. Oh, like, you don't have real trauma in your life.
If they went to Saudi, would they cover their hair?
Well, they'd have to. Absolutely.
Then why don't we have the same... why can't we ask for the same thing here?
But again, here's the other part of this too. This is also the saying, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. This has happened in other countries before. Go and look at videos from Iran from like the 1970s or Afghanistan from the same period of time. Women didn't have to wear the hijab. They were quite trendy, fashion, thriving economies. And it wasn't until the radical Islamists took over those countries that they turned to shit. This has happened elsewhere before. Yeah. And, like, a lot of people have been making the jokes about, imagine how much better off the Spartans would have been if they just let some of the Persians in. Like, diversity is our strength. You know, let 1 million Persians in and your country would have been so much better.
I asked that. So I asked the group this morning. I said, if diversity... show me how diversity is our strength. Like, prove it to me.
Yeah.
And I had no answer.
Well, it's the Piers Morgan argument. If they didn't come here, the food would be shit.
Yeah, dude, those memes are crazy. Okay. But, one of the guys even said, he's like, I haven't put any thought in it, but I'm like, but you agreed with it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I said, can you see why, if you just keep saying a thing... because we've covered it on the show, if you just hear it over and over and over again, your mind doesn't have to think about it anymore.
He hasn't thought about it. The thoughts have been put in his head for him.
Yeah, so that has been seeded into you.
Yeah.
But as soon as you use an ounce of logic, okay, like, here's an example. If you had a glass of water and you started pouring oil into it, and you kept pouring, so a little bit of oil's fine.
Yep.
Right? They'll separate,
yep,
but it's fine. It's still primarily water.
Correct.
But the more oil you put in, the water starts to tip out the top. Then it's oil.
Yeah. Yep. And look, this is where we need to have uncomfortable conversations because, so like I said before, poor Arthur...
I'm more than comfortable to have these conversations.
Yeah, I know you are, but you know what I've just realised too? This is the Christmas episode because this will drop a few days before Christmas. So,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Please play this at the dinner table whilst you guys are eating with your extended family members. But here's the thing that I will say. For a start, in the Christmas spirit, there's a lot of homeless people in particularly Queensland, but all around the country at the moment. There's a lot of homeless people. So in the Christmas spirit, all of these lovely lefties who want to feel good about everyone, who want to help people and want to do the right thing, go and pick up a couple of homeless dudes from the park and say, you know what, for Christmas, I want you to come and spend the night with us. I want to feed you, bathe you, clothe you, give you a place to stay that's nice and warm. Come and stay with us. Now, for a start, I know the vast majority of you won't do that. But secondly, one of two things is going to happen. You might have a homeless person that is so thankful for the opportunity you've offered them that when they come and eat, they use their manners, they say please and thank you, they help clean the dishes afterwards, they help with things around the house because they're so thankful that you gave them the opportunity to live in safety and comfort that they didn't have beforehand. And you'll probably want to keep that person around because they're a valued member of your household. Or you might get someone who comes in, who doesn't respect you, who doesn't give a shit, he eats all your food, He throws the fucking
Dirty.
plates on the floor
Yeah.
and gets hammered, rapes your wife, and shits on the floor. Are you going to invite that person back in, or are you going to kick that motherfucker out of your house immediately? You would remove them.
Yeah.
So the thing is, our country, the best part of Australia, and this is why we should have breezed through COVID, but we didn't because the government fucked it up again. The best part about Australia is that we're landlocked and we're away from everyone.
Yeah.
We get to choose who comes here and who doesn't. We didn't let Candace Owens come here because she's so dangerous, right? We get to choose. So like I said earlier in the show, Port Arthur changed the course of history in this country. This is the most significant mass casualty event that's happened since Port Arthur. This needs to change the course of history in this country. And I'll tell you right now, the weak men created the hard times. Look at the milquetoast bullshit politicians that we have. Albo, Tony Burke, Chris Bowen, Murray Watt. The strongest man in the Labor government is Penny Wong. The weak men have created the hard times. So we're in the hard times period now. And it is hard times because we've been bitching about cost of living for 2 years and now we've had 15 people get murdered at Bondi Beach. The hard times are here.
And
So
let me talk about the response.
well, hold on. I just want to get this out. The hard times are here. So, what happens during the hard times? The hard times create the strong men. And the strong men create the good times. So I'm telling you right now, the age of weak men is over. We're done. The age of suicidal empathy, like we just saw in that Joel Jamal clip, is done. The age of voting in other countries' and cultures' interests over our own is done. The age of demonising Australian patriotism is done. We are done. We finish now. And I'm telling you right now, this is our opportunity, because what else should be done right now is the age of the Liberal Labor duopoly. They're done.
Yeah.
One Nation's on the rise for a reason. There are a lot of people who are listening to this show who probably support her now, or who have family members that owe her a massive fucking apology, because she's been talking about this stuff for decades.
30 years.
And everyone called her a racist and a bigot and a xenophobe. No, all she tried to do was advocate for the best interests of the citizens of this country. So we need to finish the Liberal Labor duopoly and include the Greens in that as well. Yeah. Because the Greens are the ones who've been cozying up to the radical Islamists this whole time too. And it's for votes. It's not...
They're wearing the shit in Parliament.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to show... So I totally agree with you. One of the things... This is very unpopular, but this is something that I feel, and I think we said it after... What was... You know the siege in the... that shopping
centre? The Lint Cafe one? Or...
No, the other one.
The stabbing one.
The stabbing?
Yep.
I don't like the fact that footage showed essentially 4,000 people running away.
Yeah, cowardice.
And a old husband and wife pair fighting them as he got out of the car and subsequently dying. Yep. Heroes. The guy that disarmed the dad, absolute hero. Another old bloke pegging rocks at the guy.
Yep.
Hero.
Yep.
I don't like the fact that out of 4,000 people, we tried to rely on 4 of our citizens who weren't even Australian.
Correct.
To do it. I echo what you said about strong men. Like, we tried it your way.
Yep.
It doesn't work.
Yep.
It doesn't work. Okay. Let me kind of prove that even the response to this event is being poorly constructed right in front of our very eyes. I want to show you this clip. This came out a couple of hours ago.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Hate speech and the weaponisation of words can have serious national security consequences.
Pause it.
Do you want me to play that again?
Yeah, play it again and pause it directly after.
Or if that detail now.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Hate speech and the weaponisation of words can have serious national security consequences.
15 people just got shot to death. And the police commissioner, the first thing that she fucking talks about is hate speech. How about murdering people? Why isn't that the focus? this is what Alex is talking about. This is an agenda playing out right in front of your fucking eyes. And they want to pretend that you are so dumb and you are so downtrodden and abused as a citizenry that you will buy into this shit. That hate speech is the problem. No, radical extremists with guns murdering people are the problem. The government putting their focus on their own citizens for saying things the government doesn't like while taking their eyes off the radical extremists is the problem. And I acknowledge the fact that due to the length of my beard, I look like an Islamic extremist right now. I acknowledge that fact. But this is an agenda.
I want to play it.
And again, what is, like, okay, I made the joke.
We'll listen to a whole thing.
Yeah, we will, but I just want to say this. I made the joke on Sunday night after Bondi happened. I said, the most interesting thing to me out of this whole thing is going to be what the government response is. And I guarantee you, the government response will be gun control and censorship and not talking about anyone to do with the radical Islamists that actually carried out the terrorist attack in the first place. And sure as shit, I was correct. I shouldn't be able to predict something so cynical.
Yeah.
That is such a
joke.
cynical... It's a fucking joke.
Yep. I knew that would amp you up.
Detail now.
Far out.
Let's listen to it. Let's listen to it again.
Thank you. Good morning. Hate speech and the weaponisation of words can have serious national security consequences.
So just on that note, what did they say? What did these radical Islamists say?
Pew, pew, pew! Pew, pew!
They said nothing.
They
We've
said
heard
nothing.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't words at all, right?
History has taught us, and recent events have reinforced, that hatred creates a permissive environment that can lead to violent...
Hatred? Oh, okay, I didn't get that before. I get it now, hold on.
...security consequences. History has taught us, and recent events have reinforced, that hatred creates a permissive environment...
Hatred creates a permissive environment. No. Your policies, every single frame that the government has played for the last 5 years has created this permissive environment.
Allowing the father of someone who is on the ASIO terrorist watch list to obtain a gun license and buy 6 firearms creates a permissive environment.
And fly to a Taliban training, a ISIS training ground.
Yep, and come back into the country. Can I also make the point too, and this is going to be unpopular, but this is exactly in line with something I've been saying over the last few weeks on the podcast. It's not a fucking coincidence that the police commissioner is a woman. Because you can only get a woman to come out and say this shit, and people will swallow it.
Words of violence.
Yeah, words of violence. We just saw 15 people get murdered, not by words, by bullets.
Yeah.
But people will not accept this stuff from a bloke. But you got to wheel the woman out because, no one wants to criticise the woman for saying that words are violence.
And recent events have reinforced that hatred creates a permissive environment that can lead to violent extremism and terrorism. There are groups and individuals across Australia who are eroding the country's social fabric by advocating hatred, fear and humiliation.
Pause it.
And I'm not going to...
It's the Labor and Liberal Party of Australia.
Yeah.
And the Greens. The Greens are probably the worst.
Yep.
Advocating hatred, fear and humiliation. And I'm not going to mince my words, too much of this is directed at the Jewish community. A year ago, the AFP set up Operation Avalite to investigate anti-Semitism because of rising concerns and threats.
Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss.
Yeah. How much money do we spend
the
on
AFP has 161 current Avalite investigations, and 10 individuals have already been charged. Now, this is just unbelievable. As a country, we should really...
What's more unbelievable is that the day or in the week after, they've probably... what have they arrested so far? There was 2 raids that were done. There was like 7 or 6 or 7
people, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 10% of them were done in the week after the event.
Reflect on those statistics. When I became Commissioner in October, I was so concerned about Australia's degrading security environment that I announced the formation of the new National Security Investigations teams to target groups and individuals causing high harm to our social cohesion.
I hate that. See, this is
I-
that social cohesion thing. It's not your fucking job.
Okay, I'm
create
going to
social
make the
cohesion.
point. Do you know what fucks with social cohesion? Having a two-tier justice system and trying to
Yeah.
police every single thing that a citizen says. What
Yeah.
fucks with social cohesion is the fact that we've got a government who has been deliberately ignoring the will of its voters for years. That
Yeah.
fucks with social cohesion. We put and this will change again by Monday, but we put the petition up to get Albo to resign as Prime Minister. Now here's an interesting point for you. The petition that was signed, which was used as justification for the under-16 social media ban, had 125,000 signatures. The petition at the moment, it was about 12 o'clock today when I last looked at it, for Albanese to resign, was at 154,000 signatures. So 30,000 more signatures for Albo to resign compared to what the social media ban was justified with. So if he doesn't resign, he's not listening to the will of the people.
Essentially, the National Security Investigations teams are a flying squad of hate disruptors who focus on high harm, high impact, politically motivated violence, communal violence.
Politically motivated?
Yeah.
So they're a political hit squad.
Yeah.
And hate crimes that don't meet the threshold for terrorism investigations, but that we know drive fear and division. This is all about stopping hate and division earlier and well before it leads to violence. So far, but that we know drive fear. Hate crimes that don't meet the threshold for terrorism investigations, but that we know drive fear and division. This is all about stopping hate and division earlier and well before it leads to violence.
How do you stop hate?
And you said it before. Since Israel came into being as a country in 1947, the Israelis and the Palestinians have been fighting each other ever since. Bringing in some new cop squad to police speech in Australia ain't going to stop the tension simmering between those two groups. Why did we think that bringing them here was going to make them stop fighting?
Yeah. It's an ancient beef.
So far, this crack squad has charged 14 individuals across 13 investigations, and of those, 4 individuals across 4 operations were charged for offences relating to anti-Semitism. The teams were responsible for a recent week-long national blitz on the distribution and display of prohibited symbols, and for charging a passenger who only this week allegedly threatened violence toward a member of the Jewish community on a flight from Bali.
Jason, how many symbols have harmed you?
Can you imagine, after the largest massacre in 30 years occurred, standing up in front of the Australian people and pretending any of the shit she's talking about matters or is an achievement?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's crazy.
When are they going to say, get up in front of the people and go, hey, we are sorry we fucked up. We missed this.
Yeah.
Where is the accountability? Where is the responsibility? Not one person has said, I am so sorry to the families of the victims that we missed this. It will not happen again. They've never said that.
But Jason, they're not even looking for the right thing.
Because they're too busy policing speech.
I watched this whole thing. They have not once spoken about immigration.
Sydney. The announcement today to boost the numbers of our hate disruptors, as well as planned changes to lower the threshold for hate speech.
Okay.
They're going to lower the threshold for hate speech.
That's what I'm saying. Hate is subjective. You can't... So, if they can lower it, it means they can keep lowering it.
Correct.
The more you lower it, the less things you're allowed to say. That goes into Orwellian thought crime.
Yep. And is completely subjective by the victim, which can be used as a cudgel to smash people they don't like. Yep. You know, I've made the joke for literal years about, like, workplace sexual harassment. The difference between sexual harassment and flirting is how attractive the person finds the person who is saying the things. This is exactly the same. It is completely subjective. You cannot tell someone how to feel about a certain thing that is said to them. So this is an absolute Pandora's box that they're opening on us.
Will make it easier for the AFP to take action quicker. It could be the difference between us just knocking on a door to warn an individual, to an individual being placed in handcuffs. And finally, if I could make these observations, as funerals for the Bondi Beach victims continue, I offer my sincere condolences on behalf of the AFP. Thank you.
What an absolute fucking waste of time and air and... Like, that's unbelievable. You're the head of the AFP. You and the intelligence community missed this. He was on an ASIO watch list for 6 years. And you missed this. And at not one point has anyone stood up and taken responsibility.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Do you know what else the remedy is? Have you heard about the gun buyback scheme they're doing?
Yeah.
So they've drummed up they've used an old one.
Can I also say too, this is in line with, I think Albanese is obsessed with having his name go down in history for something. He just wants a thing.
Interesting you say that, because I didn't write it down in my notes, but I've written it down next to me. Albo wants a legacy. He said this. His legacy piece was, which we spoke about last week, was the under 16 social media ban, which is not working.
Before that, it was supposed to be The Voice.
True. Yeah, true.
It was supposed to be The Voice. He wants it to be the renewables transition. He wants it to be the social media ban. And now he wants it to be the largest gun buyback scheme since Howard.
Yeah, which is a Howard scheme. It was an old scheme. Now, Jason, pop quiz. It's a voluntary buyback system. If you were an extremist, would you hand your guns in?
Well, it depends how cheap the guns are. Because you see, if I'm an extremist and I've purchased weapons on the black market, for example, and let's say it's $100 per weapon, but the government buyback's going to be $200 per weapon, I'm going to sell the guns I've got back to the government and go and buy double the guns on the black market.
Oh, true.
It's an arbitrage opportunity for the terrorists.
Yeah. I was very much like you, that I predicted on Sunday also that this was the avenue that they're going to go. I did think that they would try to smash encryption, because they're going to say, like, they're obviously communicating via, which they've not talked about yet, and it's kind of hard because
they together.
They lived in the same house, so they're going to ban. My mate said they probably try to ban families.
Yeah, ban people from living together. Yep.
Yeah, but this is how you know that we're fucked. Is that and this is how we're fucked as a society, that people are going to buy it. People are going to say, yeah, there should be more gun restrictions, and we should definitely not like hate speech. Even my relatively right-wing, he's a Mad Lib supporter.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, those people shouldn't have been able to say hateful things. And I'm like, but it's a slippery slope. Who decides what's hateful?
Exactly, the victim.
That's why you can't have it.
And it
so
can be
I don't want to
motivated.
outlaw hateful speech. I want to outlaw actual harm.
In Australia, the closest friend groups say the most hateful things they can think of to each other constantly as a term of endearment.
Yeah.
It is literally part of our culture.
I've said the most hateful things that could ever be said to human beings. I've said I'm probably the best at it.
Yeah,
I would argue that I can probably make anyone feel extremely uncomfortable with the words that I use.
Yep.
And in many ways, the reason why I do it, and literally when I got to the gym this morning and I said to the team, let's get uncomfortable. Let's have an uncomfortable conversation. Because I think we need to do it. Going back to like the soft, nurturing, you can't say that, the censorship industrial complex, that doesn't work. Quick anecdote. This happened the day after the under 16s kicked off social media. I found out about the active shooting via social media.
Yeah.
How did they find out about it?
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. It's now a safety risk. Because if you've got 15-year-old kids literally on school holidays who might have wanted to go to Bondi Beach, who aren't allowed on social media, if they how do they find out? They would have had no warning. They would have just gone down there.
So I knew that they were going to try and censor people. Knew it. Yeah. I knew they were going to bring in gun laws. One gun law you might get me on. And one that I didn't know. I, for some reason, assumed that you had to be a citizen to hold a gun license.
Yeah.
I don't know why. it was strange to me that you maybe like to unlock the full gamut of freedoms that you have in our country. Maybe you should like for example, citizens don't get free healthcare; they got to pay for it. So,
as in through our taxation.
No. So like, if you're not an Australian citizen.
Oh, you mean non-citizens? Sorry.
Non-citizens. Sorry,
yeah.
Non-citizens don't get the full version of the Australian experience.
Yep.
I kind of just assumed that gun ownership would be on that list of you have to unlock the full version by being a citizen.
Yeah, but like even,
it's not the case.
Even think about it this way too. It's not even things just like, I mean, look, the gun ownership one, I agree with you. I don't think a non-citizen should be allowed a gun license at all. I think it makes absolute zero sense to allow that. You're literally asking for sleeper cells to come here and take up residence and give them legal firearms to carry out whatever they want to carry out. And unfortunately, as we've seen in many of these, particularly Islamic extremist terrorist attacks all over the world, a lot of the people who carry out these attacks have been living in that country for years. So, yeah. And then people go, oh, they just snapped overnight and did this thing. I don't think it is just snapping overnight. I think that, unfortunately, a lot of the most radical and extremist interpretations of Islam literally talk about the concept of doing anything you can to spread Islam all over the planet, including lying to the native populations to get what you need from them, and, you know, globalize the intifada, which literally means try to take out Jews in any country that you're in. Like, I don't think these things are necessarily... Like, look, put it this way. Those two guys, true believers. They are true believers.
100%, yeah. Okay. See, I like our beef, and this is what I want to say from a. I don't believe in multiculturalism. I never have. Multiculturalism to me is who's willing to yield their culture to enjoy another.
Yeah,
okay?
and at the moment, it's the Australian people who are yielding to any foreign culture,
but their own. I love our beefs. Australian beef is great. We hate the Indian cricket team. We hate the English cricket team.
Yeah.
That's our beef. That's how our culture is that. Right?
So I have been extremely abusive to English friends in my network for the last few weeks because of the Ashes series. I'm not a big cricket fan. Yeah. I'm a beating England at shit fan. So I've been watching every game, right? Yeah. I love it, and like
that's a 200-year-old beef.
Yeah, but it's also part of the culture, and it's good-hearted, and it's like it is the idea of the honourable opponent that we talk about, right? But again, like, okay, look, here, let me give you some examples, because everyone's going to go, all right, you're just naysaying, you're just saying that anything the government does is wrong. At least they're doing something. At least they're doing. Okay. Let's give some ideas for actual policy that could go towards preventing things like this. Because I've got one. Here's a policy idea. If you are a non-citizen, and that includes permanent residents. If you're a non-citizen and you commit a violent crime, up to a certain threshold, whether it's assault or break and enter, rape, anything like that, you are immediately deported, and so is the rest of your family. Immediate deportations of the criminal and the rest of their families. Let's make their families take some responsibility for their actions, right? Immediate deportations. We obviously need to do far more screening of the people that we're allowing into the country in the first place. And again, if you don't let Candace Owens in, but you're letting Muslim terrorists in, we got a fucking big problem at the borders.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And we've done this before. Stop the boats 15 years ago.
Yep.
We had
still have it. It's still around.
It's still a thing. And at the time, it was a little bit controversial, but it worked. Because you removed the incentive for criminal cartels to take people's life savings to put them on dangerous boats to send them to this country illegally.
So a conversation I was having with this young, sweet girl who wants to do right. She wanted to harbour anyone that was downtrodden in the world here.
Right, go and put them in your house. See how long you last.
Yeah. I said, well, and then we started talking about colonialism and I asked the question, where are the hotspots for people to seek refuge? Where does everyone go? Where are all the boats going? Where does everyone come? I said, name the countries. She goes, Australia. I'm like, yep. She goes, America? Yep. Canada? Yep. England? Yep. Okay. What do they all have in common? She's like, oh, they're very well developed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why are they developed? Is it because we have, or essentially every single one of those places is an ex-British colony? So the Brits are actually pretty good at developing countries.
Yep.
Australia's the best example. It started as they literally sent low-level prisoners here.
Yep.
And we built heaven on earth.
Yep.
Here in 200 years. Like, isn't that the best example?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how can you help anyone if you let your country turn into their country?
Correct. If you import the third world, you become the third world. And look, we can help them too. And like, I've got other ways of helping them. Like, for a start, not allowing ourselves to be tricked by our politicians into bombing their countries based on bullshit. Like, as a responsible citizenry, we could do that. Like, we could be giving Albo massive backlash for sending an extra $1 billion to Ukraine while Trump's trying to stop the war. Like, all he's doing is literally stoking the fires, and which is destroying an entire generation of Ukrainians and Russians. We could do that.
I think we're wrapping this up. But I'm glad that we did it this way. I don't know how long we've been going for.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, because we had to stop halfway through. So it's been about another 40 minutes since we restarted.
I think I'm glad that we took the week to align our thoughts for ourselves.
Yeah, and to get information.
I want people to go and have these conversations. I want people to, and not the conversation of like, remove this religion. That's not the conversation.
No.
That's not the conversation at all. We haven't mentioned that at all.
No.
The conversation
I've got Muslim friends.
What are the things that we can actually do? And what are some of the absolute shortcomings of what we've done?
Yeah.
And there are some real societal... I just showed the video where she talked about words and symbols being the problem.
Yeah.
There were no words at that event.
No.
There were no symbols at that event.
Oh, but they were quick to mention that they found an ISIS flag in the car. So let's focus on the symbol. It was the symbol that was the problem.
You can't, and the big thing is, I want you to think, because I know people have not put any thought into this whatsoever. Your overlords cannot build your culture.
That's right.
They cannot engineer a society.
Well, they are though. They are destroying it.
Yeah.
And it is through active subterfuge of the culture.
Yeah.
And
they might not mean it. They might genuinely think they're doing the right thing, but they ain't. Look at the result.
But again, to them, I don't like... We've spoken in the past about how this was like the Communist Manifesto, right? The way that the communists were going to take over the world was that if they had to fire a bullet, they know they've already lost. Communist versus the capitalist society. So what they were going to do is they were going to get into the educational institutions in your country, and they were going to educate your children for you. And one day you were going to wake up in a communist country and you didn't even realize it was happening. Yeah. That is what has been happening over here in Australia, right? We've had that element of it, and like you laugh about it all the time because you live close to one of the universities up in Brisbane, and there's the posters up all the time about communist parties and meetings and shit.
Socialist meetings.
Right.
I put a comment on a YouTube video and I said we need a new system, and this big fat dude, stupid hat, goes democratic socialism's the only answer. That's the dumbest answer.
Yeah.
You've got no evidence to show that's the right answer.
That's right.
But you're being told it. You're being told it.
Yep, and you're being brainwashed into it. Now here's the thing though, and this is something that I will just keep saying until it actually gets through people's heads. Leftist governments all over the world have been continuously following the same playbook, which is say whatever they know you want to hear to get power, and then use massively authoritarian and corrupt means to keep power. So the best example of this, like, put Australia aside for a second, let's talk about the UK. So we mentioned a few weeks ago, the UK government under Keir Starmer just delayed local mayoral elections for 4 years.
Yeah.
And the claim was that it's because the local infrastructure wasn't able to keep up and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But they knew, because every single one of those mayoral elections, the polls said that Reform was going to win it in a landslide. So they lied to the UK people. They said they were going to do things like stopping the boats, like stopping the immigration.
Yep.
They've ramped it up since they took power. And now they're using authoritarian means and literally removing democracy from the country that created it. Sorry, that was France, but close enough. All the small boats are coming from France. It's basically the same thing. But literally, who spread their culture around the world that we're all benefiting from today, because that was what British colonialism really did. Like you said, isn't it? We talk about our disgusting colonialist past, and then we realise that every immigrant from a shit country is trying to get into a previous British colony. They did something right.
This is gold class, baby.
Yeah, right. So they're doing the same thing everywhere. Lie to you to get in power. So come back to Australia. Before Albo was Prime Minister, what did he promise us? He promised us a $275 reduction on our electricity bills. He promised he would be the most transparent government in history, and statistics have shown he is actually the second least transparent government in Australian history when it comes to the amount of orders to produce documents from the Senate that he has refused, and the amount of freedom of information requests he has denied. And even the ones that they approve, they heavily redact anyway. And so the things that he promised in the lead up to, he's not delivered on. And what has he actually done since then? He divided the country with the voice. He's massively pushed on this renewables transition, which has drastically increased the price of electricity. What have you just brought up here? Oh, is this his
Labor's policies? Helping with cost of living, building a future made in Australia, protecting the climate environment, creating opportunity through education, strengthening Medicare, building $1.2 million homes, growing our economy.
That was a Freudian slip that you just said. You said building $1.2 million homes. Now, that's accurate.
Right.
That's accurate. Yeah. But building $1.2 million I did it now too. Building 1.2 million homes is part of it too.
Celebrating Australian diversity. Support for 600 community schools that help more than 90,000 students learn 84 languages.
But hold on, just go back up to those topics at the top. Okay, helping with cost of living. So all that means in Albo's mind is handing out subsidies, which add to
the lie is written, the bullshit is written in the line.
Correct.
Helping. Not addressing.
So not
helping.
Lowering the cost of living, helping with the cost of living, right?
Yep.
So he hands out subsidies and tax relief and stuff, which adds to inflation, and it also just means that you're paying for it, but it's through your tax dollars rather than directly out of your pocket. Building a future made in Australia. We have no manufacturing industry anymore, and the best example of this recently was the Tomago aluminium smelter. Did you hear about this story? Did we talk about it on the show?
Yeah.
So in the short version of it, Rio Tinto owns the Tomago aluminium smelter. They were going to shut it down because the cost of energy to run the smelter was too damn high because of the renewables transition that they couldn't afford to operate anymore. So instead of the Albanese government stepping in and saying, you know what, this renewables is part of the problem, maybe we're going to invest in some coal-fired power stations and upgrade the ones that we've already got, maybe do some nuclear. No, he stepped in and gone, don't worry about it, Rio Tinto. The taxpayer will foot your energy bills for the next 10 years to keep the smelter open.
Yeah, I'm just punching this into AI and see what comes up.
Okay, protecting our climate and environment. So, I don't know if you've heard recently, I think we did cover it on the show, but I think it was Mike Cannon-Brooks's wind farm. He just realised that there's asbestos in the wind turbines, so no one checked. That's a giant environmental issue. We've literally signed off to bulldoze hectare upon hectare upon hectare of arable land, destroying natural habitat to put fucking solar panels and windmills on it. That's the way that we're protecting our climate and environment. Creating opportunity through education. We don't have free education in this country anymore. Like, we do have state-funded, state schools and those sorts of things, which, like down in Victoria, they're going to teach your 5-year-old that they're sometimes born in the wrong body and maybe you should cut your dick off. Strengthening Medicare. Go and try to get bulk billed somewhere at the moment. You can't, unless you're a child or a pensioner. More often than not, these the GPs don't bulk bill anymore because they can't afford to operate the practice. Building 1.2 million homes. The Housing Australia Future Fund has only built like 400 houses since its inception, and they bought 5,000 of them out of the market, driving up the price of housing, growing our economy. Every single week another builder goes bankrupt in a country with a housing crisis where houses are the hottest commodity. Everything they promised, they fucked up. Everything.
Labor is backing men's health?
What?
Labor's commitment to women?
Men's health? Oh, an additional 32 million to support men's health and break the stigma around seeking support. No. That's $32 million of marketing to create a fucking bunch of pussies. Hey men, I'll tell you what will help your mental health. Doing things. Go and do things and achieve things. Albo, tell me where to make the invoice out to.
Tax reform for easier, faster and better tax returns? That hasn't happened.
No.
Free mental health support for parents. Has that happened? I don't think that's happened. A billion more for free mental health services. Cheaper home batteries, reducing the cost of a typical battery install by 30%. Does that happen? Or by 2030?
Sorry, so no, that has happened, but that's fucked up too. They gave $2.3 billion as part of the budget until 2030 for that program. And as of today, the vast majority of that has already been used up. We covered it on the show, I think, a week or two ago.
Yeah. More tax relief for small businesses. For a start, that $20,000 instant asset write-off is not their policy. That was a Liberal policy.
Correct.
Also, it does dick. I can tell you it doesn't. Ban on supermarket price gouging. New cost of living tax cuts. Is that the one that's scaled and isn't real? Is that an absolute fugazi? $20 million campaign to buy Australian-made. What?
Yeah, Australian-made
what?
Australian-made Islamic terrorists.
That's their campaign. That's how many of those have we done?
So again, like, the point that I need people to understand out of this is you have to, like, I remember I put up a reel when Albo won the election originally.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I'm not a Labor fan. Never have been. I used to vote Liberal as a young man because, in my opinion, I was working in a corporate industry and the Liberals tended to support the industry more, so I voted in my best interest. Oh, woe is me. But now I'll never vote Liberals ever again either. But when Albo won the election, I literally put a reel up saying, well, I didn't vote for him, and I don't believe in the way that he wants to do things. In my heart, I want Australia to succeed and be a better country. And if that happens under Albanese, so be it. That's a win. Yeah. That's a massive win. He's fucked it up. He's made it worse than the Liberals fucked it up even before that. Right? We literally just went through every single policy, and every single thing they spoke about, they have made worse since coming into office.
It's a failure at every aspect. And the only ones that they can check off were Fugazi ones in the first place.
Yeah, and look, forget all the champagne socialism they're partaking in at the moment as well, which when they were in opposition, they criticised the Liberals for. Forget all of that stuff. Put that stuff aside. The reality is, every single thing they promised to do since taking office, they've either not done or they've fucked it up. So, as a society, I'm going to say it again, Port Arthur changed the course of history in this country. Bondi needs to do the same. We need to take responsibility for where this country is at. We can point our fingers at the politicians as much as we want, but if too many of us keep voting for these cunts, it is our fault. It's not their fault. The reason why they get away with everything is because there is no accountability, because we keep voting them back in.
Yeah.
So we must act differently. We must vote differently. And the number one thing that I think that we can do to save our culture in Australia is we need to stop lying to each other, and in particular, we need to stop lying to our children. We need to start being honest, particularly with our children, about the state of things in this country. We need to stop, like, I get so grossed out when I go to some of my son's assemblies and they begin it with an acknowledgement of country. We are telling the next generation of kids, you're being educated on stolen lands, and the traditional owners were these particular people. Hey, guess what? either give it back to them or shut the fuck up and move on.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
totally.
what no one wants to talk about when it comes to the indigenous population in this country is the doubling of their life expectancy since the colonialists got here.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of Aboriginal and Indigenous Australians just want to be part of Australian society like the rest of us. Let them live, bro. Stop the intergenerational trauma that we keep trying to put on people. Because it's just a control mechanism. It's not 100%. To be nice to the Indigenous
weaponized
people.
Empathy.
It is, it's weaponized empathy. It's designed so that you've got the white guilt complex, which means they can flood your country with brown people from countries all over the world, and you won't question it because you don't want to be deemed as a racist. So you need to start being honest with each other. And it starts right now at the Christmas lunch table with your in-laws, playing this podcast and having the conversation going, hey guys, it's not racist or bigoted to act in your own best interest. Mm-hmm. It is normal human behavior. Every other country on the planet does it except westernized countries, which are being literally destroyed by a globalist agenda. We need to take our country back. The age of weak men is over. The strong men are here to take the country back. And it starts right now.
And on that note,
Merry Christmas, motherfuckers. We'll see y'all next week.
See ya.